Congressman, my question for you is sort of how this all intersects for the American voter, for the citizens who probably right now, if they're watching, they may have watched through impeachment. They may have been disappointed that Republicans didn't want to hear from witnesses, that they ultimately acquitted Donald Trump. But right now, everyone is desperate for him to get this right, for this narrow slice of his responsibilities to disseminate accurate information, to, let the buck stop with him when it comes to the production and distribution of tests, and to be a leader that this country can turn to in our hour of crisis. What kind of interactions have you had with the White House that suggest that's remotely possible?
We want him to win on this issue, Nicole, because it's our health, it's our financial security. I was in a leadership meeting at 2 o'clock with Speaker Pelosi, and she got up and out of that meeting to speak again with Steve Mnuchin. I think it's nearly 6 times today they've gone back and forth and have been speaking. And so that there is a productive conversation going back and forth. We are results focused. And so when we look at this, first and foremost, people don't want to hear wash your hands, use hand sanitizer if there's a shortage of hand sanitizer out there. They don't want to hear go get tested if there's a shortage of testing. So we want to have free testing available to anyone who is sick and presenting. We want the testing to be done off-site, not at hospitals. We want first responders to have all the protective gear that they need. We want wage earners who are losing hours to be reimbursed for that. If you have to go home because you can't work, we want you to have paid sick leave. If you lose your job because of the coronavirus, because your industry is tied to it, maybe in tourism, we want you to have unemployment insurance. So we're focused on, the urgent and important right now, not on what's political, and hoping that we can strike a deal very soon.
There are very few historical periods to point to when Congress wasn't entrenched in some sort of partisan divisions. But the years after 9/11, the months after 9/11, it changed pretty quickly. I'll go with months, are an exception. The Patriot Act was passed, I think, 98 to 1 or 2 in the Senate, and overwhelming margins in the House. And I'm not saying that the crisis resembles 9/11 in any way, shape, or form, but the anxiety among the general electorate and the stress and strain on our economy, there are some similarities. And I wonder if there are conversations we don't see or hear about with your Republican colleagues in the House or Senate that suggest that that's possible.
Well, yes, and I'll give you an example. I was an intern on the Hill when September 11th happened, and I saw that same camaraderie and then the lessons learned so that we could make sure a day like that never happened again. So an Intel committee member, Rick Crawford of Arkansas, a Republican, he and I introduced legislation this week that we've been working on in years past that would allow Congress to convene remotely if we ever needed to, not because that's going to be the new normal, but just in a crisis in the future, we may need to have that capability. And so we are looking at, what are the lessons learned from this? It's probably not going to be addressed in this crisis, but in future crises, what can we do to make sure that, we learn from this, whether it's on the public health side or just being able to function as a body?
You work in a very public building. You come in contact with a lot of people. Should you and all of your colleagues on both sides of the aisle be tested weekly for coronavirus to make sure that you're not spreading it inadvertently?
We don't have tests here.
But should you? Should that go in the bill? Should you be tested?
Well, I think we should take, precautions, and if we have, any of the symptoms, have access to a test like every single American. But we have closed the building, as you know, to tourists. My staff will begin working remotely from home. We hope that we can get this bill passed as soon as possible, because my fear is that the longer that we wait for Republicans who are bringing up issues like tax cuts and abortion, the longer we risk, the closer we are to a risk of not even having a quorum to convene. And so there's an urgency here, and we can't bring, the partisan politics into a decision like this.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.